My name is Nicole Grimes. I'm a Marie Curie International Outgoing Fellow at the School of Music in University College Dublin. The outgoing part of my fellowship was at the University of California at Irvine, where I was working at the Department of Music. And my project is called Brahms and the Fabric of Modernist Culture, and it's looking at the music of Johannes Brahms in relationship to the poetry, literature and philosophical ideas of Germany in the 19th and 20th centuries.
My name's Nancy Salmon, and I work at the University of Limerick in the Department of Clinical Therapies. My research has three main strands. The first is a foundation piece that's the Research Active Program, and that's a module for students with intellectual disabilities to become co-researchers on projects. The second strand is called Navigating Stigma, and that's a project that's developing a qualitative database of interviews with people with disabilities in Ireland coming up to the ratification of the UN Convention. So that involves 40 postgrad students. And the third strand is a set of international case studies in the Republic of Ireland. The second one is in Nova Scotia, and the third one is in Northern Ireland, about how people with intellectual disabilities are transitioning from institutions into community living.
My name is John Doyle. I'm Director of the Institute for International Conflict Resolution and Reconstruction in Dublin City University. The Institute for International Conflict Resolution is a team of about 65 people, but evenly divided between doctoral researchers and academic staff. And it looks at quite a broad range of areas around conflict resolution and reconstruction, from law to politics, to history, educational reform in post-conflict settings. My own particular work is on peace processes, why they work and more often why they don't. And there's a team of about 12 of us working in that area. Over the years, I've been involved in hosting an incoming fellow in a IRSCS, a staff exchange program. But the largest program, the one I'm currently coordinating, is a Marie Curie ITN, or Initial Training Network, focused on doctoral training.
My name is Nancy Stenson. I'm working in the School of Psychology in UCD. I come from a linguistics program at the University of Minnesota, and I'm working with a psychologist on a collaborative effort to improve reading in Irish and the teaching of reading in Irish. We're assessing the challenges that teachers and learners face in learning to read Irish and preparing materials that will help teachers teach more effectively.
I first heard about the Marie Curie Actions through a professional colleague in University College Cork, who's also a musicologist, and she had been awarded a fellowship, and she recommended that I look into it, which I did, and very happily so.
I first heard about Marie Curie Actions at just a research event at the University of Limerick, and it was just presented as a kind of an array of choices you might have as a new academic in Ireland. So it happened in the first couple of months that I lived here.
I first heard about the Marie Curie Actions in about 2007-8, when a colleague who was then in Kazakhstan was inquiring about coming back to Europe through the International Incoming Fellowships. He eventually applied for that, and he was hosted doing work on the colour revolutions in DCU, and eventually stayed in DCU as I was successful in getting a tenured position as lecturer.
I first heard about Marie Curie through the research projects manager in the the College of Human Sciences in UCD. My colleague and I were applying for a Fulbright fellowship, and she pointed out the availability of the Marie Curie grants and thought that they might be appropriate for the work we were proposing, and so we decided to apply for that as well. I was in the right place at the right time, essentially. I was about to retire from my university in the States and was interested in extending my research in a new direction.
The incoming fellow was interesting. It fitted in with the research that was going on in DCU at the time, particularly around democratic transitions in Central Europe, why they worked in some cases and why in other cases they were unsuccessful, and indeed remain so to the coming day. That then, I suppose, gave us an insight into the schemes and a foothold, a new colleague who was interested in the area. And so then we applied in 2010, I think, for the first time for an ITN on doctoral fellowships. And that was a consortium of 6 universities from the region, including Tallinn and Warsaw, ourselves in Dublin City University, and St Andrews and Bremen in Germany.
I specifically went for the Marie Curie funding because it facilitates professional development as well as allowing you to advance your research.
For me, one of the personal benefits is actually the social capital that this grant gives me. And I wasn't expecting that at all. Being from Canada, I didn't really understand the leverage that a Marie Curie Fellowship would afford me. So it's giving me access to people that I never would have imagined having access to, especially as a non-national, especially as a non-European citizen. So to be able to link in with politicians, with really high-level academics, to have access to really high quality and high level international conferences where as soon as you put that label on the bottom that you're a Marie Curie Fellow, suddenly you have an advantage that I just wouldn't have ever expected.
One of the big benefits of a Marie Curie ITN is that it allows you to develop a larger team. Typically in social sciences, you're relying on small grants funding 1 or 2 PhD students at a time or a small bit of travel grant. A Marie Curie ITN allows you to bring together 15 PhD students on a broad topic.
I would say the main benefits of having the fellowship are that the European funding mechanisms and the Marie Curie scheme seems to understand not only how research works and what a researcher needs in order to carry out their research, but also all of the various things that a scholar in the early stages of their career needs in order to advance their career. I would say the mobility is the biggest highlight of the Marie Curie Fellowships because it allows you not only to have that international dimension to your fellowship in that you travel, if it's an international outgoing, you go out of the EU for 2 years, but also it allows you the mobility to carry out archival work.
I think one of the main highlights for me, because my work is very much about connecting with communities, is this grant has given me the leverage, essentially, at my university to enable me to connect with the communities that I really want to link in with.
In spring 2014, we had the first sort of full-on international workshop. So we brought together the 14 PhD students and about 20 staff, their supervisors and other experts from within the consortium and outside. A week-long, very intensive, locked in one room engagement on the politics of the region, the students' projects. Every student presented their PhD work to date and got critique from some of the biggest names in Europe, from people working in very similar areas, and from left field of different perspectives and disciplines that they hadn't thought about. I think that in some ways was really exhilarating, to sort of have that time, which is a real luxury, just to do what in some ways is your core reason you became an academic in the first place, is the focus on that intellectual endeavour. And you couldn't have done that without the Marie Curie supports.
Marie Curie Actions are a great option for researchers, especially in the social sciences and humanities, I'd say, because of the focus on collaborative interaction among people. It's not tied specifically to work in a lab or to development of technological equipment and so forth, although I'm sure that can be a part of it. But many grants are so focused on that the human interaction part is not really there, and I really find it very helpful to have that and the ability to collaborate and the opportunity to learn new disciplinary approaches while working in my own field.
I think that the Marie Curie Actions are a brilliant option, actually, for anybody in the social sciences and humanities. I went to a conference here in Dublin, maybe it was 2 years ago, I think, in the summer. And what I was surprised by was how my work was seen as innovative. And I never would have imagined my work, I never thought about my work in that way before, in terms of innovation in research practice and innovation in social sciences and humanities. So I think one thing that social scientists maybe aren't so great at is actually understanding where we sit in the research domain and how much our work is valued by funders like the Marie Curie Actions.
It's difficult to say the one best thing. I suppose there are so many aspects to it. If I had to pin it down to one, I would say the collaborations and the professional network that I've been able to build up and the wonderful array of eminent and prestigious scholars across the globe that this fellowship has opened up for me to be able to work closely with those people.
The best thing about the Marie Curie Fellowship, I'd say, is the length of time that's available for completion of the research. In my own field, at least, many grants are often rather short-term, lasting only a summer or a few months, or at most a year. And to be able to conduct the research, do the background preparation while funded, and at the same time have time to conduct the research without constantly feeling we have to cut corners because it's running out, has been a real blessing, and I've greatly appreciated having that time available. I don't know the Horizon 2020 program specifically, but I have already, in fact, recommended to a colleague to apply for the grant.
I would recommend other researchers looking for funding through the Horizon 2020 Marie Curie Actions, particularly those who have a research project that they feel is on the boil or ready to go as such. And this provides a wonderful opportunity for them to elaborate on that and gain some traction with it.
In terms of my direct experience of ETNs and the PhD doctoral programme, I think they're a really exciting opportunity to create something benefit, and I would strongly recommend colleagues to do it. The standards are very high, the competition is fairly hot, so it needs to be a good proposal. You need to have a good team. It's not something to be thrown in lightly, but the benefits if you're successful are really good.